Well, welcome to the abbreviated version of Southern Porches.
And now for something completely different.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
You know, Roger, what's happened is we, on our Apple, have been given the opportunity to broadcast through the Southern Porches page, but it doesn't work on it doesn't work right now on the PC, and we were having some trouble with that, so we're just right back down to our old way of doing it. So we're going out over our normal way, which looks like it's working now.
Good.
Yeah, it's working fine. You know, we said we were going to talk about concentration and a little bit about the view, also the philosophy and theories behind why we started Southern Porches, and the fact that it's not we're hoping to get on a porch one day. We're hoping to get into a set a little bit more sophisticated than the office, but right now this is the reality of it. But again, it's not about the what, it's the why. The why do we even want to do this? And I do think we've lost connection with people, and we're just hoping that maybe this truly can bring back that vision of sitting on a Southern porch and just talking about life.
Exactly. And I think that probably at the core, it's not necessarily counseling, it's connecting.
Right.
I think there's where we look at an important issue here at Southern Porches is connecting with people and going out there and helping people and talking about stuff that they may be interested in or they may have wondered about, and putting it in a way that they go, oh man, I get that now, or that helps me, or that kind of gets me out of the ditch. I'm thinking, wow, we've done our job. That's really what it's about. It's not about creating a counseling environment. It's more about creating a connection environment of where we're on kind of in the imagery, we're on a porch. We're asking you to get on the porch. We're asking you to be a part, and for us to move forward with that. What you got?
Nope, we're just we're going live. So let's talk about this idea of concentration. Do you think we are losing the ability to stay connected, concentrated, and use our concentration in the world of immediate access and immediate everything?
Without a doubt, Rick. I think that one of the things that I've noticed about people are they do not have good concentration, that they have been sold immediacy, that things should happen right away, that if I have a problem in my marriage, it should happen to get better right away. I'll know this job or that way right away. And we're sold that kind of instant recognition or instant answer, and I think that's a setup for people. I think that they don't give situations the ability to progress and develop. And I like an old wine commercial that had the phrase, no wine before it's time. Mm-hmm. And what it was saying was you can't rush it. It takes time to plant the grapes. It takes time for the grapes to grow. It takes time to harvest them. It takes time to get them together in a bottle. So it's a progressive element that takes time. And I found that to be more important, and that people who grasp that idea actually do better. They have better marriages, they have better jobs, they have better lives, they have better children. It's because they don't see it as a moment. They don't see it as an immediate payoff. They see it as a long-term progressional moment, and that it will happen over years. And so one of the things that is important there is patience, is that people having the patience to say, okay, I'm going to plant the seed. I'm going to water the seed. And boy, now here's a big place. I'm going to give it time to grow. And for a marriage, you have to give it time to grow. At friendships, you have to give it a time to grow. Professional situations, you have to give it a time to grow. And this immediate thumbs up, thumbs down attitude, I believe, is a setup for failure, and it makes people incredibly impatient, and they do not have tolerance, and they are quick to lose focus and quick to give up.
Mm-hmm. Kim's asking, and Kim, what do you mean by demanding change in the 60s? What were the changes that you saw being demanded as we wait for that? You know, I think we shared this briefly one time, but going back to the idea of a southern porch,
right?
And what happened to the southern porch, and what happened to the opportunities that we had where we did know our neighbors is, you know, I think I shared with you, you know, prior to the advent of air conditioning, the porch at night would be where you would go out and get cool and talk and have lemonade and so forth. When air conditioning came in, that's when homes were starting to be built without the porch, because the idea was to get people in the house as quickly as possible and not lose the AC. And then we found that we were losing that southern porch. And
you know, the thing I think about, Rick, is all that accomplished was selling air conditioners. You see, that's what really bothers me about when you really go back and look at the progression of things. People were sold it would be better, it would be faster, it would be greater, kind of the microwave idea. But when it came about, it didn't improve things, that it brought about more problems than it created solutions, and that it was monetarily focused. You know, the whole idea was we want to sell more air conditioners, and we want to sell more air conditioning parts, and we want to sell more air conditioning repairing. And so it was an economic boom in that area. But people are not better going into their house and just sitting there going over stuff within the family. Sometimes the family is just not strong enough emotionally to just be around people, or they don't live in a house big enough to isolate themselves. You know, I've got my room, you've got your room, and we all go to our room. And where that is possible, people do that, you know, especially now with the electronic devices. You know, I'll watch TV in my room. I've got the computer in my room. I've got the games in my room. And so I go in and I'll see you tomorrow. And that's how they operate. You know, they come out to have a quick bite, and then they go back in and you don't see them.
Yeah, and Kim's again talking about toleration, and you know, he says as toleration goes down, there's a sense of immediacy rise, and he uses example. I'll tolerate a meal out of a microwave versus a cooked meal. You know, as we think about that, I do think we're putting our fingers on that. We do see the genesis of the disconnect within the communities with the introduction of TV, with the introduction of AC, with the things that kept us more indoors.
Right.
And now going to the technology that Kim's talking about, and what you just got through sharing is even more so today. You know, we are a connected society that's so disconnected, and you know, microwave is a convenience. I don't know.
Well, it is a convenience, Rick, but it also created an environment. It created a mindset. It created a system of operation, and it did not think about the consequences of that. And we're now living with the consequences. Yeah, you can do this. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, you can have this. Yeah, you can have it that way. But are we better for having that? And I've not seen the one thing I think we've lost in that immediacy is quality. I think you do not see the quality. As we're talking about with Southern Porches, I think you had a better quality of family. I think you had a better quality of friendship when there was a porch, when you could sit back and lazily talk and go over things and connect. And it made you a better person. You know, sitting down and interacting with people makes you a better person. And you do not see people who are incredibly isolated, who are really focused on the computer or TV screen as being good people. They do not interact well. And honestly, they come off a little strange to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can pick them out. It's like, well, that's not really in line. And I think people that go out and get into the yard and talk to people and interact with people are better people. They just seem to operate life better than the isolated immediacy environment people.
So have we lost our social skills, you think, or are we losing?
Oh, without a doubt. Goodness gracious, I think. You know, I was listening the other day, and they were saying that one of the problems with the present generation is they don't know how to interview for a job. You know, and so they go out now. It's not because they don't have the intelligence. It's not because they don't have the information. They do, and they've graduated from college or they've graduated from high school, and they're very knowledgeable. This present generation. But they have no social skills. And so that plays out in just a simple interview for a job. What an interview for a job checks out is more your sociability than your knowledge. And we've made people very knowledgeable for the sake of sociability. They just don't know how to maintain a conversation. To have a lengthy conversation. You know, they may be good for one or two sentences, and then they're done. They don't have anything else to say, you know, unless you ask them specifically about a particular subject, and they're throwing out knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not doing that, they can't communicate with you.
Yeah. And Kim, you know, he's saying where the phone's the start of the communication lag. I don't know if we're talking about the cell phones and smartphones. I think it's when the texting came into being is where we started to see that we have. I still think speaking on the phone is an art that's dying, but it still was an art at one time because you did have verbal communication and you could, you know, share whatever you wanted. Texting, we've now abbreviated our lives down to.
Abbreviated our lives, right? Huge right there. I can remember when I was younger being on the phone for 1 or 2 hours and then getting off the phone and saying, well, I didn't think I was on enough. Mm-hmm. And now, you know, it's get on, say what you got to say it quick, got to go, don't have time to you know, massage this. We need to get to the point, and that's where texting goes to. And why we have so many people in the texting. Clear, to the point, hard copy, let's go. This is what we're saying. If you can't say it in this amount of characters, it's not any good. And now we see in our environment where the president doesn't even want to go and go through the media. I want to directly talk to my people through the text. I want to make it. Why? Because that's what they understand. That's what they work with. And I think we are becoming less sociable people, and I don't think that is an asset. Rick, I think that's a liability.
Mm-hmm. The lack of social interaction growth. Yeah, and I think, Kim, that is what we're saying. Is, unfortunately, we are seeing a lack of social interaction. I can share with you that I know it's interesting when I walk into my classroom each day. I remember being in school in the prehistoric ages, long before you had phones.
The time when they had dinosaurs.
Yeah, and you would sit down and actually interact with your classmates before the professor would walk in or talk about the homework assignments or talk about other classes. And if I get a chance, I need to probably take a photo of one day. Today, when you walk into a classroom, every student eyes are on their cell phone prior to class. There is zero interaction among themselves. They have no idea who their classmates are.
Right, because knowing that, Rick, creates an atmosphere of awkwardness.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you have to go out and interact with people you don't see every day, you have to adjust. That is uncomfortable. And so people don't like that feeling. They can be on the phone, somebody that they've established some level of a relationship with, even if it's surface, and I can communicate with them, or I can watch some program, and I do not ever have to be awkward. And it's escaping that awkwardness that makes us less. We aren't better people. We're worse people because we don't know how to be uncomfortable with other people. And that's a real skill that we used to have, and Southern Porches were a way in which we had it. People got out and you learned how to interact with other generations. You learned to get information from other generations. And you opened up about your deficit. There's something I don't know. Do you know something? And people would tell you what they know, and they would help you. That they wanted to work with you, and they were, and I think this is very important, emotionally invested in each other. And I think when you move to cell phones and other things, there is a disconnect. People are not emotionally invested, and it's so much about sink or swim. You know, I remember it's the difference between learning how to swim. You know, one person goes out and they sit down and they work with someone and they slowly go into the water and they get the person used to water, and then they go into different steps to move them to a place of where they can swim. And then there's another group that takes the person and throws them in the water and says, sink or swim. You know? And that is a very scary deciding moment. But I think that's where we've gotten. We just don't want to go in the water either way, and so we don't ever put on our swimsuit. And I think emotionally, that's what people are doing. People are never putting on their swimsuit. They graduate, they've spent all this time, all this money, all this energy to go through college, and they still don't know how to swim, or they still don't know how to socialize. They do not know. They've got the knowledge, but they don't know how to get the job.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the key points out there in the personnel business. They've got all these people that got the knowledge, but don't have the skill to get the job.
Yeah. You know, I was just reading recently that Kim's asking, is there a point where we'll not be able to teach folks how to interact? You know, interaction really is not a skill set taught. And what I mean by that is, you know, socialization as itself used to come and still does out of, you know, we start in school, we learn you share, we learn you don't hit the girls, we learn you don't pull the girls' pigtails, we learn that if you fight the guys that, you know, you're going to get in trouble and so forth. And
Right.
and we learn our skill sets and socialization starting there. Now, I don't know how much the world of technology has come to the point where even there is some of that. I you know, like we just got through saying, we do know that those that have grown up in the world of technology, it is connected to them. The emotional quotient that we're talking about, and the social quotient of being able to go out there and talk about jobs. I know there was an interesting article recently about a restaurant that bans cell phones, and the author of it said the owner of the restaurant found a very curious thing happen. People actually were talking to each other again.
Oh, yeah. Well, and Rick, you know, what I'm thinking about in this is when I went to school. When I went to school, part of the structure of teaching was social involvement.
Mm-hmm.
That the teacher went in and said, you know, we get into groups of 3, get into groups of 4, and you're going to spend the rest of the year working with these 3 or 4 people. You may have never known them. They may have come from totally different background, but the structure of the education forced us to be together and forced us to work to achieve a goal. And so even though socialization wasn't part of the curriculum, so to speak, it was part of the structure, and it forced us. And so I think at some point I think the educational structure is going to have to do that. It is going to have to force students to be together. It's going to have to for people to move, they're going to have to develop not only education, but socialization. And that they're going to see that by doing that, when they graduate a person, that person will be able to get a job. Not only look for a job, not only do the job, but get a job. Because we've got people who know how to do the job, but can't get a job because they have no skill in interacting with people. And that is a tragedy. And then you can imagine if you get two no-skillers and they decide to get married, wow, what a nightmare is that? At some point we look around and we're supposed to communicate with each other, and wait a minute, I have no skill to communicate, and all we did was quote-unquote date, and off of that we decided to get married, and then we have no marital skills. Right. And I think that's something that we're seeing more of, that getting along with people is a skill. Being married is a skill. Getting the job is a skill. And that unless somewhere in the process we learn that, we're going to pay dearly in the backside of that. That is not something that goes well left untreated. And right now, for the sake of immediacy, we're, to get it now. If you can do something good on a computer, if you can cook it fast, if you can go in and be cooler, everything will be good. And boy, the repercussions now are showing now. It's taken a while for there to be a reverb on that, but we're seeing that where people, it is not moving things to the immediacy has not made for better people.
Yeah.
They just don't interact well. And so it's that, and I'm not advocating let's just go out and all interact and it'll all be good. No, it's a mix. You've got to have knowledge, you've got to have expertise, you've got to do it within a certain time limit. But if you don't know how to do that as a team, as a community, as a unit, you are in the deficit. That doesn't make for a better person. It makes for a problem that causes people to stop. They can't move forward without that. That is an important piece, and I guarantee you we are seeing more and more of it. When over 50% of everybody who says I do very quickly says I don't want to do this anymore, that's a flag. It's trying to tell us something. People that graduate from college and go out and say, give me the job, I'm ready, I've spent all this money, all this time, I put myself in unbelievable debt, and I can't even get a job. That's a red flag. Something's wrong with the system that's doing that.
And I like what you said, about the classroom, because that's exactly how I manage my classrooms. Is I put them in groups and have them work on projects together and answer questions together, so they have that opportunity to interact. And modern, from what I've been reading on some new theories of college teaching, at least, is the professors are more now to be that type of facilitator of information versus,
I love that. Facilitator, not educator.
Yeah.
Because we've got a generation that's got plenty of knowledge. They're not unknowledgeable. Man, it's not like we have a group of dumb people. We got a whole group of people that are way smart but don't know what to do with it. And that's tragic.
Almost to the point, where we can almost have too much information. And what I mean by that is when we had to research, to go to the library, get your index cards out, you had the resources that were there available, but it took time to do all that. Now you go on Google and you can have 3 million bits of information on a single topic, and how do you process that? And part of the challenge is teaching them how to, again, question even what's being given to them out there.
And Rick, the power is in the process.
Yeah.
Being the ability and having and working with the ability to process information, process interactions, process life, makes it work better. It is kind of like the lubricant that keeps the engine going.
Mm-hmm.
And people are saying, we don't, that's too much trouble. I think what they're finding out is it's needed. It's trouble. It's needed trouble. And that the machine does not operate as well unlubricated. At some point, it's going to lock up and it won't move. And I think that's what we're seeing, like I said, in marriages, in jobs, in schools. People do not connect well. And connecting is part of a marriage. Connecting is part of a friendship. Connecting is part of a job. And I tell you one thing that I like, I've noticed that's happened more lately is like with kind of the mid-generation are the night outs, the girls' night out, the guys' night out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like they're going out and doing something immoral or unethical. They're connecting. They're going someplace and interacting and getting connected with people and using that connection to move forward. And I think that is a great idea. I think that people that I've noticed who do that are happier people. They're more connected people. If they get in a bind, they're more apt to do like the old Southern porch. Hey, can you help me? Hey, I need some help because I've already established this relationship in a I don't need help. And so when I do need help, I feel more comfortable in asking for help. And what's sad in that, Rick, is a lot of kids I talk to, the last time they had anything like that is at high school.
Yeah.
And once they graduated from high school, you talk to them 20 years later, they still have the same friends. Their friends haven't changed. Their connections haven't changed. And so that means they've been stagnant for 20 years. And I'm just saying, that tears people up and it causes all kinds of problems. It doesn't make for a better marriage. It doesn't make for better parenting. It doesn't make for a better employee. It makes for people that are so introspective, they have all kinds of emotional problems. And I think that's why we see so much depression and anxiety in the community, because they're gazing at their navel too much. Mm-hmm. And that causes problems.
Yeah, Tim's asking, are people being more reluctant to share their emotional or mental aspects part of their problem? I think people are afraid to start truly identify their problems, identify the issues.
I think, Rick, in that my thinking is they don't know how.
Yeah,
that's what I want to tell Kim. They don't know how. It's they know something's wrong. They don't know what to do with it. It's like I need to be able to do this, but I don't know how. So since I don't know how and it's uncomfortable, I don't do it. I stay stuck, and then all kinds of emotional problems come out of that. And so you have to create, and I think that's the thing we were talking about with Southern Porches, is it was a structure that encouraged connectedness, mm-hmm. or going to a school in which they put you in groups that encourage connectedness, or going to a church that encourages connectedness. I can't believe, I know people that go to church and have been going there for 20 years, and you ask, well, who are you connected with? And the bottom line is nobody.
Yeah.
We drive up, we look good, we walk into church, we sit down, in Sunday school, we then go to church, we sit down, we come out, we say hi to a couple of people, and then we go home.
Yep.
And that's it.
Well, it's a checklist.
Yes, yeah. And then they wonder how in the world that, can you be going to this church time and time and time again? And it's because no one or no structure has challenged them to connect. And then you go back to the old days where everybody knew everybody's business. You didn't make it into church without people, touching you, asking about you, interacting with you. You didn't make it out of church. People got connected with you, asking about you, checking with you. Is there anything we can do? Can we help? Can we be a part of? and they made sure there was integration between people. And now it's that is a low priority, and they allow people to come in and like a rock skipping across water. That is what people do in so many social situations. And so you hear people, oh, so-and-so died. People go, oh. And what do you remember about them? Not much. And what kind of person with them? I don't really know. And I love whenever there's a newscast, Rick, and there's been a shooting next door. And they ask the person next door, well, how is this guy or girl next door? They were always nice people to me.
Yeah.
Always said like, and then they go in and they find out, man, this woman's been beat for 5 years. And they yelled at each other, they threw knives at each other, and they shot each other, but they did it inside their air-conditioned house where nobody was apart. And so you don't hear people say, well, I've noticed some things, and there was some this and that. If that comes up, then you think, well, that neighbor was nosy and into either people's business. And back in the day, that's normal. And you knew and you connected and you had an avenue. If something was a problem, you had an avenue to ask for help. Mm-hmm. And I think that's powerful. I think we need to reopen the emotional, verbal, relational avenues with people. And I think that's what we're trying to do here in Southern Porches, to open that relationship back up, to say, step up in a kind of an area of anonymity and ask. And we'll do our best to treat you like you're sitting in a chair next to us.
Exactly. Well, and with that, like I said today, because of the technical problems, was an abbreviated session, but we'll be back next Tuesday, and we'll go through the regular channels next week as it does work better until we get some things figured out. But as always, we encourage you to send in your questions. That we'd be happy to talk about those, and if not, we'll just do as we're doing today and address them as they come up. So everybody have a good rest of the week, and we will see you 10 o'clock next Tuesday.
Exactly. One of those tea days.
You talk about concentration. Yeah, next Tuesday. All right.
Have a good day. And the question would be, who is Kim?
Kim Hamilton, the guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, he was definitely in the zone. He was asking the right questions. And that's probably the thing that, even like when we're talking about retreats, is creating and forcing people to interact.
Mm-hmm.
That's the structure of the retreat, is a forcing of people to do things. That's kind of when I went to Tucson. They put us in a room about this size with about 5 or 6 adults and a therapist on pillows. And you were there for like 3-4 hours. And they talked about incubating until stuff, and then they would throw things out there, and you would have to talk about it or go into it. And by the end, people were emotionally moving.
Still has this going out live. I don't know why. Yeah, I know. I'm not sure why it's still going out live because I got it closed.
Oh.
Let's see if I close that up. I'm just going through this. Okay. Maybe that was it. Oh, there it is. Okay.